Not until the boom.
Don't.
Good evening.
Like Good evening. This is Hope for Hale Center.
Welcome to a Wednesday night show on a Thursday night. Yeah. We had our own official haboob yesterday.
We did. That was what it was called, I guess.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
70-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm a preacher. I still had to say, "This is the day that the Lord hath made."
That's right.
And I know He did. And I was over here getting things ready, and it sounded literally like the building was going to go down.
Yeah.
Those of you who don't live here anymore have probably already heard what all we went through. At about 5:30, power went off, and so we called everything off.
Yep.
And we contacted our guests and said we're going to have to reschedule, and then we canceled services for last night. The Baptist Church canceled. The First Baptist canceled services last night.
Jimmy said he canceled.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't.
You did cancel? Yeah.
You did cancel.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, no, that's not good. But at any rate, we got up this morning and we thought, this is the good news. The good news is Hope for Hale Center already has guests scheduled out through the second Wednesday in May. Isn't that right? That's what we're working to.
Yep.
So we were thinking for our guests tonight, when could we get them back in? How could we get them rotated back in?
Right.
And so we started making some contact this morning, and lo and behold, our two guests that we're so excited about having tonight could both make it. But we were disappointed to find out that Hope for Hale Center, New Hope
wasn't able to come tonight. So we will reschedule them, though.
They've been here a couple of times. They're doing great. We love to have them here.
That's right.
So what we did, and you can look forward to this when we would normally have, when the band would start playing or when the singing would come in, what we're going to do tonight is we went around town today and we took 50 pictures around town in Hale Center, and just different things, especially for those of you who are watching from out of town and don't get back to Hale Center very often. Some of the pictures, Sally said, they don't want to see that. And I said, well, that used to be such and such, so they might want to see it.
Right.
So anyway, we'll have that with a little bit of music and to make our transitions with. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes, and we'll introduce our guests to you. But right now is when we have a very special time of the evening, and Sally brings everybody up to speed on what's going on with the segment we like to call Sally's Corner.
Really, and with the information that I have, if you get a chance to get a pen to write with, this Saturday, the Parks and Rec, they will be meeting at the chamber office between 1 and 3. Now, I know that they're talking about inclement weather that's coming in. So, but I talked with Wendy today, and everything is still on schedule. So they'll be out there with umbrellas and pulling weeds. And I told her, I said, well, the worst that could happen is if it rains, then, it'll make the ground softer. And then just keep on pulling the weeds. So anyway, if you get a minute, not a minute, but a couple hours out of your day on Saturday, this Saturday the 13th, to meet at the chamber office, which is on Main Street, and then Wendy or whoever else will assign you the place to go to help clean up the parks here in Hale Center. And then it would have been Saturday, for the pet vaccination, the annual pet vaccination, but they have rescheduled that for May 11th.
Ginger was glad to know that.
Yeah,
she was happy that was
it's time for her shots too. We don't talk about that though, because she can hear us. But anyway, so write this down. May 11th is going to be the date for the pet vaccinations there at the fire station in Hale Center between 2 and 4 on Saturday, May 11th. And next,
you know what else that May 11th?
What?
That's when Lubbock was torn up so badly by the tornado.
Was it really?
That's the big anniversary of the Lubbock.
It was in 1970? 70 or 71?
I don't know. I just had that much input.
Okay. I wasn't here, but I don't know.
Yeah, May 11th. I just always remember that. I can't tell you the date that it hit Hale Center. June 6th?
I don't know. Here in Hale Center was June 5th, I think.
And I was 5.
Yeah.
So that's a long time ago.
And I wasn't here again.
And we digress.
Yes, we do. And before I talk about next week's Hope for Hale Center, the Pioneer Club is in support of the Hale Center Public Library. This the first time I'm reading this. They will be having their annual bake sale, the flower sale, on May 3rd, starting at 9 a.m. May 3rd. Is that you know what day of the week that is? Friday? Oh, I didn't
Well,
write that down.
No, I don't.
But anyhow, there will be beautiful hanging baskets and geraniums for sale, which I bought some last year, along with the delicious baked sweets. Please place orders ahead of time by calling the library at 806-839-2055 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to make sure there is an adequate supply. Hanging baskets will be $22, and the geraniums in a 6-inch pot will be $9. And the public library thanks you very much for your support.
And Delia.
And Delia, yes, yes. And this April 20th is coming up in, what, 2 weeks? Week and a half?
Yeah.
Anyhow, the Easter egg hunt is going to be at the Cottle Lake Park. And from 2 to 4. And there's going to be games and prizes and face painting. And it's all hosted by West Texas Family Medicine of Hale Center and the Chamber of Commerce. So write that down on your calendar too, April 20th, from 2 to 4.
West Texas Family Medicine is the premier host of
Yes,
this? I didn't
yes.
know it. I thought they were just, that's why we were working so diligently to get Brittany over here.
Yes, yeah.
But we understand.
She's not going to be here next Wednesday. Right. So anyhow, I may bring that up again. But and if you want to donate toward it, she said no problem. You can always donate eggs or candy or anything like that. And you can just take it by West Texas Family Medicine on Cleveland, and they'll be glad to have that help too. But I asked Brittany yesterday, I said, how many kids do you think there are going to be? And she goes, I have no idea. And it could be the biggest Easter egg hunt yet.
That's every optimist would say that.
Well, it would be.
I tell people we have 400 or 500 people here every
Yeah.
night. Every Wednesday night we do the show,
Uh-huh.
and there's more like 4, but it's 4 or 500. There's 4
Okay.
evangelical numbers, Jimmy.
Yes. Okay. And then the only other thing I have is that next week's Hope for Health Center was going to be Brittany White, but she may send someone from her office, I guess you would, the clinic, to come over and speak about it. If not, I will let you know a little bit more on it too next week. But Linda Mahagan is going to be our testimony guest, and it will be a blessed time having Linda here. And then our return music guest is going to be the Hala team. So that
And
will
we're going
be
to have our
blessed.
opportunity to make things right. The sound was, we just had a
bad.
terrible fiasco with the sound. They were a lot more powerful group than we were expecting or that we were wired up for. And
Yeah.
we're going to get everything toned down in-house and let you hear the beautiful sounds that we heard on a level that will be palatable to your
Yeah.
ear. Do your ears have palates?
But-
I don't know if palatable is the right word for hearing, but at any rate.
Anyway, that's it for Sally's Corner.
Okay, well, as we do, I'm going to start off with a little passage of Scripture, and then we're going to introduce our first guest and get this show on the road. But we always like to do that initially by having a little word from the Word. And tonight, you know who I think of? When we were on radio, when somebody would, like for instance, I always remember Johnny Reese, for when he called in, he liked Billy Don't Be a Hero.
Uh-huh.
And
Jimmy Curry
Jimmy
would
Curry
always
liked Fraulein.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's scriptures that I remember people for.
Yeah.
And Tilly Colder.
Colder. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Visited her in the hospital once, and I was going to read her a passage and had one all picked out, but I said, is there something you'd prefer? And she said, yes.
Yeah, she knew right away, didn't she?
And so we're going to share, Tilly, this is your favorite. But I'm going to read to you from the King James because I'm old, and that's what I like. Amen. But thank you, Brother Jimmy. But gonna do a little New King Jamesism on it and just change the word of charity over to love in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Join us here in the Word. Though I speak with the tongues of men and angels and have not love, I'm become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have faith so that I can remove mountains and have not love, I'm nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profiteth me nothing. Love suffereth long, is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself up, is not puffed up. Doth not behave itself unseemingly. seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Love never fails.
That's right.
But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. We know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even also as I am known. And now abide faith, hope, and love. These three. But the greatest of these is love.
Amen.
1 Corinthians 13.
Yeah,
Love
I
that.
love that.
God bless you
Yeah.
as we share the reading of the Word.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited today
We are.
to introduce someone that is, we'll get to find out where she's from and all such as that, but she's got a lot of ties here to Hale Center. In fact, her father-in-law and I fought in the library in junior high one year. He got the better of me, but I've never admitted that until today.
Father-in-law?
Gary
It's not her father-in-law.
Patterson? I believe it is.
Is he really? Oh, okay.
That makes up for being gotten the best of
man.
in the fight 50 years ago. But at any rate, I did.
Yes, he did win that
This
one.
is, we are so honored and happy to introduce someone that we'd like, a lot of you who may not know her or don't know her very well. She came in, she's one of these people, as we build this up, that was a lifeline and a godsend for Hale Center because we were about to be in jeopardy of losing one of our key businesses in town, and yet she was the perfect fit to come in and take it over.
That's right.
Without further ado, we want to introduce to you now owner and operator of and pharmacist at Hale Center Clinical Pharmacy, Miss Laura Patterson.
Yay! Where's our clapping?
We don't have very much of a in-house audience today.
Yeah.
But Laura, it's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Where is home, first of all?
Well,
Where'd you
Now
come
this is
from?
home, obviously.
home is
Yeah.
here. This
There
is
you
home.
go.
But I grew up in Slayton, Texas, so I'm
Really?
a West Texas girl.
Right.
Born
You're
and
not far from
raised. That's
home.
not that far. It's about 50 miles
Right.
south
Yeah.
of Lubbock.
Yeah.
And then I went to college at Abilene Christian, so I still didn't go too far away. And,
Right.
Really?
and then pharmacy school at Texas Tech. So I'm a West Texas girl. This
Where
is
did
I
you meet
belong.
Clint? Where did y'all run into one another?
We met at ACU at Abilene
Really, at
Christian.
Abilene
yeah,
Christian?
we met during our freshman year actually, and started dating and got married right after we graduated from college.
Yeah. Wow.
Now that's Clint Patterson. That's Gary and Cindy Patterson. Cindy Hacker and Gary. I'm old school, so I'm going way back. We'll dig up all your old history there. But now your side of the family, they're all are they still in Slayton? Does your family still live there?
You know, funny you mentioned that because this is home now.
Right.
I think our family just kind of realized that, well, if that's home, we need to be there too.
Way to go.
And my
Me too.
parents kind of decided that someday when they need someone to take care of them, they wanted it to be me and not my brother. So they moved here last summer, actually.
That's awesome.
They moved
Wow.
here in June. And then Gary and Cindy, Clint's parents, they grew up here, so a lot of you I'm sure know them. They moved back here to Hale Center back in September. So
Wow.
within the last year, we've gotten a lot more family here in town.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now this is more than ever becoming
More than
home.
ever, it's become home.
Wow. And Ginger, what's the matter over there? She's very unhappy. Mama's
She's
got
very
her
unhappy. I've got her
tethered.
tied down.
I guess, did you get your pharmacist degree? You don't get that at Abilene Christian, do you?
No, I got that at Texas Tech.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So you went to Texas Tech, got your pharmacist degree,
Mm-hmm.
and what led to coming to?
You know, truly God sent us here. We did not intend to move to Hale Center,
It's not a
Texas.
plan.
Well, it wasn't in the plan. So I was on Texas Tech's Amarillo campus for my first 2 years of pharmacy school, and Clint was already a graduated, degree-holding teacher. So he was teaching in Amarillo.
So he's a school
Wow.
teacher.
He's
See,
a teacher.
I didn't know that.
He
Didn't know
teaches
that.
5th grade science.
Here?
He actually teaches in Plainview.
In Plainview, there
So
we
we'll
go.
get to that.
Okay.
So I was in Amarillo for 2 years, and then they did a lottery for us to choose which of the 3 tech campuses. They did pharmacy in Amarillo, Lubbock, and Dallas at the time. For our last 2 years, they had to divide us up. And I was way down the list in the lottery. So we had meant to stay in Amarillo so he could keep his job. Yeah. And we didn't get Amarillo. So I got Lubbock, though, which is still, close to home. But that brought us back to this area. And his grandmother that lived here still had moved to Lubbock about a year before that and offered her house to us. So he started applying for jobs in the area, and Plainview had an opening, and he took that. And so we moved here in 2006. I still had 2 years of pharmacy school, so I commuted back and forth to Lubbock. And he was teaching in Plainview, and he's still teaching for Plainview ISD. And
really?
Anyway, and then I graduated from pharmacy school in 2008.
Yeah.
Wow. 2008. And now, if this is already in your stuff, you can just tell me I'm getting to that. But when did you start looking at the pharmacy and negotiating to that, or is that something you're going to go into?
Well, I didn't really know that we would stay here. We thought this was a 2-year thing.
Did you work at the pharmacy for a while?
I did before we bought it.
Okay.
But during my last year of pharmacy school, I was popping into the pharmacy for a prescription one day, and Mr. Bob Brown said, I want to talk to you for a minute.
Really?
And I said, well, okay. And so we visited, and he offered me a job and said, when you're ready, we'd like to talk about if you were interested selling it to you too. And so we went down that road, and during my having babies years, I was afraid to take on becoming a new mom and an owner all at once. So I did work for the Browns for a few years before we actually bought the store ourselves from them. Yeah. So that happened in 2014.
I'm kind of remembering.
So it's been 5 years since I bought the store from the Browns.
Wow.
And they are just the best mentors anyone could ask for.
Yeah.
So
they're still there for
everything.
me. Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Love them so much.
We're all kind of partial to them.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
And we keep on praying for Tanny. Tanny is still
I understand
healing.
she's doing well.
Good.
They hope she'll get to come home this week.
Praise the Lord.
That's awesome news. When I was little,
in this within the next week.
They're
shooting for next week, Wednesday-ish.
Awesome. That's big.
Mm-hmm.
She's had a tough go. When I was born in Hale Center Hospital, and Hale Center High Plains Hospital. My mom was a nurse there when there was daycare. My little sister worked the daycare there, and the pharmacy used to be in there, and Bob Brown had it. And I can still remember when they put that little standalone building out there and started it. And so we've seen history go all through that. I've got a cousin that worked with Bob there, and it's always been. It was a gut punch when we lost the hospital, as you can imagine.
Yes.
And like I said, it was a godsend. And you said it was God that brought you here, so that's no doubt for Hale Center that was a save, that you came through. And the pharmacy seems to be strong and seems to be doing well.
I love Hale Center. I didn't have any intention of this being my final destination after graduating pharmacy school, but I wouldn't change it for anything. My kids are in school at Aiken now. They love it.
Good.
This is home.
It's a great community.
We love this community, and we just love working at the pharmacy and being a part of the community in that way.
Good. So what all do you do there? Now you guys give immunizations. Do you do that?
We do. So obviously we are a pharmacy, and you can get prescriptions filled, but I really enjoyed the clinical side of pharmacy, where it's more than just prescription filling and more about wellness and things like that whenever I was in pharmacy school. And so one of my big goals in first taking our step out in business ownership was to expand some of those services, which when I was working for Bob, we started doing immunizations. I came in already immunization certified. So we of course still do that. So you can walk in anytime and get a flu shot, pneumonia shot, tetanus shot, the whooping cough, or the new shingles shot. That's on high demand, and it's actually on back order. It's been off and on back order for the last year.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So there is a new shingles shot in town. If you didn't know, it's important to know.
That's hard to say 3 times.
It is.
The shingles shots. You've got to be careful too.
That's right.
But it is in high demand because it is a lot better at protecting against shingles versus the old shingles vaccine that we've had forever. And it was great. It was all we had. Yeah. But this one protects at around a 90% rate against shingles after you get the 2 doses. It's 2 doses. Wow. So we keep that one, although we're running a little low on supply right now with this shortage situation. We should have more coming in hopefully pretty soon. So just know
Okay.
that's all available.
Yeah, that's good.
Beyond that, we also do diabetes education now.
Okay.
So I teach a free diabetes class. It's typically on the third Monday of the month at the Senior
Wow.
Citizen Center at 1 p.m. and it's open to anyone in the community,
Really?
not just for senior citizens.
Right, yes.
Although this month there was a scheduling conflict, and so I had to push it back a week. So it'll actually be on Monday the 22nd this month.
Okay.
But typically, any
Yeah.
third Monday of the month, 1 p.m. at the Senior Citizen Center, we talk about different things with regard to diabetes.
So
That's
is it
awesome.
like diet and things like that?
Yeah, we
or
touch on
medicine?
everything, things about medicine, things about how to manage it with your diet, getting active, foot care, that's a really important thing in the realm
Yes.
of diabetes, just all kinds of
Yeah.
things.
That really
Wow.
strikes a heartstring with me. We minister in nursing homes a lot, and oh Lord, you know what diabetes can do. And I've had so many dear people and friends that I minister to just start losing fingers or lose a foot. And that's something I did not know that we would really value as that approaches, like the week before you have that. Each time if you'll let us know, we'll promote it on here.
Sure,
And
sure.
have you back to talk about it sometime.
Right.
That's very valuable. I mean, I'm sure all of these things have their own value to so many people, but the diabetes, sometimes people have no idea. And and also, as you say, how much can be controlled just with
There's
knowledge.
so much we can do
Yes.
that can help prevent some of those long-term complications and, you know, make your long-term life a lot more
Much
pleasant.
better.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, before we go into what you have
Yeah.
prepared, one other thought. You were talking about the different vaccinations and things like that people can come in
Mm-hmm.
and get. Just like going to a clinic or whatever, they just come in and say, I'd like to get this shot. Do you say, well, have
do you
a
have
seat
to-
and I'll get with you? And
Or do you have to have a prescription?
You do not have to have a prescription. You just walk in. We have standing orders that we can administer vaccines. So all of the standard adult vaccines. Now, we do mainly do adults. Flu season, we can do children 7 years old and up, or children over 7. So
Wow.
otherwise, they have to be 14 or up for us to do them without a prescription.
Okay.
But yeah, otherwise, no prescription needed. You can walk in anytime.
And usually you
Jim,
get to
our
'em.
other pharmacist, also gives immunizations. So I'm not there every day, but many of you already know Jim, and he's great. And we both can do shots. So
Yeah. Good.
Anyway.
Good.
that's awesome.
yeah.
And I have another question. Did I see something on Facebook about you were doing some kind of exercise classes? Was that you or is that somebody else?
Not exercise classes. We do have a weight loss program.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's probably what you've seen. So I typically do one in the fall, and then another one in the spring.
At the senior center?
No, that we have actually made use of Mr. Cameron's church building
There you
and
go.
have
Methodist
met in his
Church, awesome.
fellowship hall because I don't have
Yeah.
no space at the pharmacy. But
Right.
but that's something that we do offer. It's an 8-week program where we just kind of encourage each other along the way and help folks get on track in that
And make
regard.
us all accountable.
Yes.
Yes,
So
that's
the
key.
next round probably won't be due to start till September. I usually start the first week after Labor Day.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've satisfied most of my curiosity. And,
Mine too. Yeah.
Okay, well, now you
Yep.
brought some things. I kept hearing you say M&Ms, but I can't have sugar. So.
I did bring something, and this is not pills. It really is M&Ms, but I think they're kind of old, so they may not taste very good.
Yeah.
So there you go. You don't have
can't-
to worry about
We're
it.
on a diet
Good.
anyway. We
I
don't
did
eat
want to
sugar.
help put out the word about something. I don't know how many folks have been seeing the commercials. Pill Pack has been running on TV. A few of my folks have asked about it. But we, for about 2.5 years, have offered, I don't know if you can see this packaging system. It's not something we've advertised greatly, so it's something that I want just Hale Center to know that we do this. It's a free program, but we do have to have a permission form signed for us to do your medicines this way. But this basically is your medicines in a pill box that we pack for you, and it has like the
Wow.
date. Like this one says June 27th, Tuesday morning, and then this is the noon dose, evening, bedtime.
So that's just like all
They're
this.
Wow.
all perforated. You just peel it back, nice and
And that's,
easy.
everything's all in one.
It's
one
all
thing.
right there, and then there's this handy med list at the top too that shows
Yeah.
everything that's in here. It lists on there what's in there too.
Wow.
Really handy, and this is something we do for free. So if this is something that piques your interest, just so
Yeah,
you
'cause
know,
almost all of us
we
our
do
age
this.
have those little.
yes.
Well, in fact,
and
this-
this we do for you. So you just come,
Yeah,
you pick it
awesome.
up like that, and
could've
then you
used
don't have to worry about it.
I was sitting on the couch tonight, putting all my pills in the pill box.
Yes.
And everybody of an age knows
Yeah.
what we're talking about here.
That's right.
So I just wanted to show
Yeah,
folks that and let you know
that's
that
good.
whether you take your meds, once a day, twice a day,
That's
4
great.
times a day. We can pack them that way. So if that's something you're interested in, ask at the pharmacy about it, and we'll be happy to get you started.
Yeah.
Do you have one when somebody gets to be like Jimmy's age that's big enough like it'd hang on your closet door for all the...
I'll have to look into that.
have to look at a larger one there.
Sorry, Jimmy.
All right, that is great.
Yeah.
Well, before we wind this up, why don't you tell us a little bit of some of the particulars for people who aren't familiar, like with your phone number, if they're out-of-towners that want to talk with you about maybe their elderly parents or somebody that's here in town, some of the things that you do, things that you accept, what your services are. for
Delivery
individuals
service or
such
anything
as
like that?
Perfect. Yeah, so we are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're not open on weekends, but I have been known to respond to Facebook messages if someone is in an urgent situation. Just reach out to me. So Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Our phone number is 806-839-2466. You can also find us on the World Wide Web at halecenterpharmacy.com. Lots of information about us there. And while we've always offered delivery, we've not ever just really advertised it, but I mentioned my parents being in town. We've actually hired my dad recently to be a daily delivery driver.
Really?
Deliveries are free, and so those
Just
are
right
gonna,
here in the city limits, though, right?
right here, and we're looking at reaching out to Cotton Center too. So
Okay.
if there seems to be
Awesome.
interest, but just right
Yes.
here in Town Health Center, we'll be running deliveries every afternoon. So if
That's
just so you know,
wonderful.
if you need it delivered and you can't get out, let us know.
Yeah.
We'll hook up our new delivery guy.
Pass this word along to your friend, those of you who are watching in Cotton Center. I know we've got a few people. Let everybody else know this.
Yeah.
Sometimes people who need the medicine most need delivery most.
They do,
So
yes.
that's another that's a heartfelt service that you're offering. What does it say on the window?
Locally owned, locally operated, locally loved.
Locally loved.
And that
that's
locally
right.
loved is our goal. We
Yeah.
want to serve our community in a way that benefits the community.
This
Yeah.
has been quite a benefit to us, and
Yeah.
we're so grateful that you come out on a Thursday night at 9. Your babies are in bed, right?
Yeah.
They are.
Tell us about your family.
Well, my husband and I have 2 little boys of our own, a 9-year-old in 3rd grade at Aiken J. And Eli is in kindergarten at Aiken. He's 6. And so they ought to both be in bed anyway.
Yeah.
And
They may be at home
back
watching
in
you.
November, we took in a foster baby that we are taking
All this
care of.
stuff we didn't know.
She was newborn when she came to us. She's 5 months old
Really?
now, and she's precious. And she was definitely in bed whenever I left to come over.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Well,
Yeah.
and what's her name?
Elizabeth Grace.
Elizabeth Grace.
This is,
Beautiful.
I know that this is benefiting the people that are watching because it's benefiting us.
Yeah.
It's good to get to know you better.
And everybody loves you.
They
You
do.
gotta know that. You're
And
just
was-
so well thought of.
Was that Clint in the store yesterday when I came up in my old truck and told you that we
Yes,
were
sir.
See, I didn't know that because I've
We
maybe seen
recruited him to help
twice.
out yesterday afternoon.
It
It
was
was a
good
little
timing.
hectic with all the
Oh, I bet it was.
power
Oh,
outages and our
yeah.
technology messing up.
Oh, yeah.
I've maybe
Yeah.
seen him twice or 3 times. so
And
I
he was
didn't
at the
know.
chamber banquet too, wasn't he?
He was,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Clint.
Sorry, I know your daddy. I know your daddy. But anyway, it's so good to have you here.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much, and we will have you
Thank
back
you.
if you'll come.
Yes.
All right. And let's see, doing all this
Oh,
from here.
high tech.
We're so glad to have Laura Patterson of Health Center Clinical Pharmacy. Those of you who are out of town and haven't been around for a while, that's Old Brown Pharmacy. And it is Health Center Clinical Pharmacy now, and we were visiting with the owner and operator and your very own pharmacist. So glad to have Laura Patterson. When we come back in just a moment, we will have a preacher. Who'd have thought it? Looking forward to somebody that I'm sure there will be some laughing and giggling going on, and we will introduce him properly here in just a few minutes. But as we mentioned earlier, New Hope, who is to be our musical guest tonight, who's been here before, couldn't make it tonight on the reschedule. And we called a couple of other people, but it was just too short a notice. So we didn't want to put this off because we definitely wanted to have these 2 guests in tonight and get this information out. So Sally and I went around town today. Thank God it wasn't yesterday.
Oh, man.
While it was pretty, and we took pictures all over Health Center, and we got 50 pictures. And what we're going to do now is just run about a 2.5-minute music and show you pictures of your old hometown.
That's right.
And we'll get 25 of them now, and then we'll come back and do another one in a little bit and see the other 25. So as we switch guests right now, enjoy a look at your old hometown. How'd you like that?
That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Running this whole thing from my telephone. It's but Joe
hi, Jay.
Castillo is running the sound for us tonight, and
Thank you, Joe, for
he's
being here.
so if this is sounding awful, I'll give you his home address. But he's pulling the sound together for us, and we're still trying to get used to all this equipment and software.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we run the video from up here and the audio from back there.
Yep.
We took the pictures from all over town. We have 25 more pictures that'll come up in the next one. And
you know what we were talking about earlier is that maybe if you want to see a special picture here in town, send us a note on Facebook, or I guess that'd be the best way.
Any way you want to get a hold of us.
Yeah.
And you can even comment. You can comment on the YouTube page. You've got a
Yeah.
place underneath there to comment. If you've got it in full screen, obviously you can't see that, but go back to the normal screen. And you can comment and get all this squared away. Old Joe back there may even write back and forth to you. He's got the opportunity to do that.
That's right.
But send if you want a picture, we'll go take pictures for you.
Because we only found a few. There are so many more pictures to take.
Oh, we could take a lot.
Yeah, we could take.
And if you have pictures you want to send us to put on here, we don't mind. We just this is keep it all homey, and if you can't get home as often as you'd like to, then come home through us.
Yes.
All right?
Exactly.
Now, we've got another guest here.
We do.
This is, I didn't know if he would come or not. I figure most people his age are already long gone to bed. I can't help but take a few shots. I'm about to be free game. But this is a man
who...
who...
have to be in bed to sleep. I'm asleep right now.
Where's that coming from? He's asleep right now. We, everybody... that's living in Hale Center now will know who we're talking about.
Yes.
He's a man of God. I heard you most affectionately referred to. Somebody gave you a title that I aspire to. And we're talking about Mr. Jimmy Cameron. And Jimmy, I talked to someone in a nursing home once, and they told me Jimmy Cameron is Hale Center's pastor. And I thought,
it's true. It's true.
I thought, what a high honor.
Yeah.
Jimmy Cameron, pastor of First United Methodist Church in Hale Center.
So glad
Good to have you here tonight.
Interesting enough, there was no Catholic priest, there was no Baptist preacher, there was no Church of Christ preacher when I came here.
Really?
Is that right?
Yeah.
They were all interims in the slots or whatever?
They're changing around and everything.
Oh, wow.
When that happens, for those, one of the reasons I admire you so, and I'll say this in front of everybody now, because I don't usually give you a lot of accolades in person.
No.
But
what's the matter? You sick?
No, I want people to think I'm nice.
Oh.
But pastor is a word that a lot of times isn't fully understood. There's preachers and there's teachers and there's sometimes they are pastors as well. But the Spanish word for shepherd is pastor. And I admire, and I watch you, I see it, and I admire the way you care for the people in town. And when somebody's sick, when somebody's in need, you're there, and you're ministering to them. And we see that a lot in hospital visits and such as that, but when I would meet him out walking and stuff, and we would start talking about different people we were talking to, it was very natural for either one of us to say to the other, well, has this person made a commitment to Christ? Do they know? Because if they're pretty sick, I want to know, well, did they have their faith in Christ? And he would say, well, I talked to him about this. Or he'd say, well, do you know if this person's been baptized or not you're calling on? And then that's what else is there for a man of God to be doing and taking care of these people? I just I admire it.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
I don't know.
Just time run together.
15 years, 14 years.
Really?
Well, his little pill bag was only about this tall when he got here. So.
Yeah.
You talk as long as you want. Don't look at your watch.
I'm Jimmy Cameron, born and reared in Stratford, Texas. My daddy was a farmer. My mother was a housewife, and we lived 3¼ miles out of town. A quarter of it was dirt road. And every morning when I rode the bus into town, I read the population sign for, 8 years. It never changed. 1,380, I remember. I was fortunate to have a farm family. We read the Bible story book every night, bedtime, the whole family, all three of us. when I was 12 years old, we read the story of the Good Samaritan on Saturday night, and on Sunday morning the preacher preached on it. I couldn't believe that.
Wow.
It just happened.
That's
We had
cool.
several talks about giving my life to Christ, and that Sunday morning when he finished, I started out from the pew to go down, and my mother stopped me and said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I do."
How old were you?
Hallelujah.
12.
12 years
12,
old.
yep.
Praise God.
Yep.
So
That's-
at the
that's
end of
awesome.
that, when I was baptized and accepted Jesus as my Savior, that's one of the first times I remember Jesus very, very, very clear being there next to me.
12 years old.
That's what I want to talk about in a minute. But I went to McMurray College in Abilene, Texas, graduated with a master in religious education, a minor in church music, and decided at that point, of course, that I was going to give my life to working in the Methodist Church. I attended Southern Methodist University, and then I took one class at Oklahoma City University, and then we went to, part of that class was to go to the dynamite camp. Well, there was something like
Dynamite camp.
120 dynamite youth camp. That's where they train the youth directors.
Okay.
So I went, and there were probably 150, and all of them were junior, senior in high school, freshman, and sophomore college, except for one guy who was 30-something. Needless to say, I was the grandfather.
That
of
was
the
you
group.
again.
Again.
Let me ask you something. Hold on just a second. Is the popping coming over? You might
You say
pull your
no.
mic out just a little bit. There you go. And
There you
it'll still pick up your sound just as well, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay.
And it won't pop.
Oh, yeah.
So you're the grandpa at the youth camp.
Dynamite youth camp, yeah. That was a good camp. I enjoyed that. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And then I knew that if I was going to be youth director, I'd have to have something to back up what I was doing, because one of these days I wouldn't be able to keep up with those kids on the basketball and every other court. So I did education and music. I went to Borger First Church between my junior and senior year in college, and was the youth director for the summer. And then my first job after graduation was First Methodist Church youth director in Midland.
In Midland.
Okay.
Where Helen,
Oh.
you remember the little lady that we were ministering to in the Plainview nursing home, and her son, when we met him, said
Ferguson.
that you were
Ferguson.
Ferguson.
Yes.
Oh, John Ferguson, wasn't it?
Yes.
Said that you were his youth director.
Oh,
And remember,
Her
really?
maiden name was Ferguson. I don't know.
Helen
Oh,
Harper.
Harper, yes.
yeah,
Is
Yeah.
it John Harper?
yeah.
I'm going to look
Yeah.
him up and give him this link because he'll
That's
want to
right.
hear this. He wanted to hook up with you so
Yes.
bad. Said you were just the greatest youth director ever. And I said,
Yeah.
I really
Jimmy
enjoyed
Jimmy,
Cameron?
are you talking
Jimmy
about the
Cameron?
Jimmy?
Yeah, he had the wrong guy. Don't let him see it. He'll know it wasn't me. And,
that may have been Midland. I don't know.
I needed to tell you what I'm going to try to do is tell you when I think Jesus Christ was closest to me. And I also want to say one thing before I start. I want to make it very perfectly clear where I sit on this. I believe that Jesus Christ is right by every one of us.
Amen.
I think he's right there, and what he's doing is waiting for us to take his hand so he can walk with us.
Amen.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm having a lot of trouble with these people who want to know where Jesus is.
Right.
I know where Jesus is, and they ought to too. And if they don't have that feeling I'm talking about, then maybe they have better check themselves out, because they may have gotten off the path. So they need to get back.
I'm
'cause
afraid so.
Amen.
You
Yes,
need to
that's
hold his hand and walk with him to make a real good life.
That's
So I
right.
just wanted to know where I stood on that.
Yeah.
Amen.
Attended Cedar Canyon Methodist Camp, elementary, junior high, and senior high years. Worked as a camp's counselor in my high school years and my college years, and assistant counselor. And went to that camp all of my life, and then went back teaching, taking kids and everything 3 times a summer. And then I moved from Andrews to Odessa. And I'm sitting there in the church because it's time to send the kids to camp, putting all this Seton Canyon stuff on the papers and getting them ready to send out. And the one of the staff said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting the kids ready for Cedar Canyon camp." He said, "You're in New Mexico conference now."
Oh, no.
All of this training.
I'm still in Texas.
Yeah, really.
But I'm still in Texas.
You're like taking a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah. So I started doing Sacramento, and in Sacramento, I was there several years.
Sacramento, California?
Sacramento Methodist Assembly in Sacramento, New Mexico.
I didn't know there was a Sacramento, New Mexico.
In the Sacramento Mountains.
Uh-huh.
And some of those camps were interesting. One of them, I had a high school girl as my assistant counselor, and I had 8 junior highs in my group. And we had prayed, instead of just starting with Scripture, something in my head told me what I need to do to start this group is to ask them why they came. Woo! I should have started some other way.
You didn't like the answers?
First little girl started crying and said her dad had been a pastor for several years, and this June he's being moved, and we don't know where we're going, and she started crying, and the pastor giving the messages at camp happened to be mine at that time, and he was walking by, thank God, and I just sent her with him because I knew he knew her father she's talking about. And then I went to the camp. I had a guy that was probably 70s that drove from Odessa and drove a people hauler every summer. He just loved the kids, and he was older. And I told him this time, I said, I want you to go to our group, because I thought he'd really enjoy that. He's never been in one. And so he did. Well, the next little girl said, I'm being abused at night by my father and grandfather. And I said, you got to be kidding. No. And then the next girl said, she was crying, and I said, why are you crying? She says, because I feel bad for that.
For her. Now, what are you, 30? Are you 20 some odd? Or
38.
38 at this point.
Wow.
And I got tickled because of that.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I'm glad you're concerned, but what are you here for? And she said, well, my mother made me come because she's dying of cancer, and she wanted me to get away from the bed for a while. Isn't that terrible?
It is.
And
so
then
you're ministering to all these kids.
And another girl come and said the same thing about her mother's boyfriend. And I thought, God, Lord.
Yeah.
God was shaping you to pastor.
I got everybody that's having a problem in camp. And anyway, then the three more was just there, and one had been before, and the 2 were loving coming and had all been excited because people told them about it. And I said, there's one boy standing there beside me all the time, and he's whittling. Well, we're all settled down, and we had a prayer, and started all this, and he's still standing there whittling. And my first thought is, tell him to put his knife up and sit down with the rest of us.
Yeah. Right.
I thought, no.
Spirit said no.
No. Something inside of me said, you don't want to do that, because he'll probably just leave.
Yep.
And so I didn't. We got through with all the rest, and I went and looked at him, and I said, why are you here? And he said, because my mother made me come, and if I didn't have to, I wouldn't be here, I guarantee you. I thought, well,
okay.
Back to your whittling.
I know where he stands.
But he kept looking at that knife, saying, well, I'll just, okay.
So
we'll
I thought, well, now let me see. We're going to do this. Why? Let's go and read the story about Peter walking on the water. That's going to be, I'm going to do 2 sessions on this. I ought to be able to. So I had the little girls that were not crying read the story, and he's still standing there whittling. And I said at the end of it, now why did Peter start sinking? The knife went down in his hand, he stick down. He said, that is the stupidest question I ever heard in my life.
Really?
Of course, my mouth.
A junior high boy.
Yeah, my mouth drops open, and I thought, he said, he took his eyes off Jesus.
So he was listening. The whole time he was paying attention, you didn't.
And I guess my mouth dropped open,
Yeah.
I had
Wow.
an astounded look on my face, and he looked at me and said, "Didn't think I was listening, did you?"
You bring that out in people, Jimmy.
So to make that long story short, when we
That's
got ready to
great.
go home, I'd had all of them pray. You know, we met 6 times, and it was the last session. And I looked at him when we were finished, and I said, "Close us with prayer for this week."
Wow.
And I asked the rest of them, I said, "Bow your heads." And that seems, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds of silence, you just goes all over you. But I said, "Bow your heads," and I bowed mine. There was a pause, and pretty soon he started praying. And he did a good job, a beautiful job. Thank for the people that was in his group, and thank you for the counselors, and thank you for the food, and thank you for the cooks, and thank you for... When he finished, everybody said amen. I looked at him and I said, "I asked you for a prayer, not a sermon." Everybody laughed. He said, "You didn't think I could do that either, did you?" And I said, "Yes, I did. I just didn't know if you would."
Just didn't know if you would. Big difference.
So there was
That's neat.
These camps are really wonderful.
Yeah.
I had another one. You want me to tell about another one?
Go ahead and tell another one, and then we're going to do our second song segment and come back and let you do the personal part you were talking about.
We had elementary kids, and they were up on the mountain. There's 2 dorms up the hill. And then the main camp had the junior highs. So we were having camp, and there was a little boy that was really getting in trouble.
You junior high still? Yours?
No,
He's
in elementary. And so he was up in elementary camp, but he was from Odessa. I knew his counselor, and they told me that he had done some things that were not very nice, and they were going to be taking him home in the morning. And I said, "God, do you know the story?" They said, "Yeah, but we can't have this at camp." I said, "Well, his mother and daddy didn't want him to begin with, and then they divorced, and neither one of them would take him, and he's living with his grandparents, and his grandfather has cancer, and grandmother can't keep up with him, and he's just kind of by himself. Can you give me till tomorrow noon?
Yeah.
Let me see what I can do." So we're having...
And they said yes. They let
"Yeah,
you
I'll
do
give
that.
you till tomorrow noon." So that next morning we're having a skit. And you ever seen the youth, they figure out what they're going to give a skit on, and they put it all together, and then they give it. Oh, it was wonderful. And I took the camp director, the youth director for the boy, myself, and the older man that was the people hauler driver, and I went up to the elementary camp, and we got his stuff. And I'll never forget that scene. I'm standing there, and the youth director, his youth director, is crying on my shoulder, and I'm looking over the other, and going down the hill is this older man. He's got the suitcase. He's got his arm around the boy. The boy has his bedroll up over his shoulder, and they're talking as they go down the hill. Well, I thought, I've got to have help on this, so I went into the skit deal, and I had 3 adults and 3 youth that I was going to ask to help me with this. And there's a little room back at the back. So the door was closed, so I had them follow me, and I opened the door, and we went in there, and there were 7 chairs in a circle. Unbelievable. So we talked about it, and then the skit was over, and they was going to go outside for recreation. And when it was over, 4 kids came and got him, and they left. And I thought, I better check on this. So I gave him 5 or 10 minutes and went out, and he was having the time of his life. They were running over, doing everything they were supposed to do for fun and recreation, and we never had to say a thing to him.
Wow.
And he
that's
got to
good.
stay then.
Yeah.
He got,
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Praise the Lord. You know, love never fails.
I
Love
just-
never fails.
It
so
just
no matter-
it was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
The poor little boy didn't need to go home.
Yeah.
you bucked the system,
Yeah.
and you won.
Anyway, that's
That's
what
awesome.
I'm saying. Jesus is there.
Yes.
He's right there
Don't
beside
tell
us.
me you don't know where Jesus is.
Right, right.
Amen.
And it's not
That's-
in a church building. That's what we were talking with somebody earlier. It was with John earlier. It's not this building. You know, we're programming this in a church. It's not in your church building.
No.
Jesus lives in our hearts. Wherever we go,
Oh, yeah.
He goes with us. Yeah.
Well,
Amen.
it's neat that that we're hearing you put stories to what you're about to share when we come back too, because when you say that, I can't help but think of, is it Revelation 3:20 that says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." He is right there. In Romans 10, he says, "The word is nigh thee; it's even in your lips; it's on your mouth." He's right there. We just need to confess it with our heart, confess it with our mouth, and believe in our heart, and then take him by the hand. Find a whole new way going through. These are dark times, and one of the reasons that we wanted to do this show is kind of twofold. One, to keep you informed on what's going on in your hometown, and two, in a time when so many people are angry on social media, so many people are afraid, so many people are uncertain, there's something to be certain about. There's hope.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
when we come back, Pastor Cameron is going to share some of what that hope is. And if you're just sitting watching this tonight and you've been just trying to keep up with what's going on in town, and you're just kind of amused by this little garage production, but you keep watching, God's got you there.
Yeah.
The love of Christ has constrained you to be here watching this and hearing what's going on. And when we come back, you're going to find out just how close Christ is and how close he can be to your heart and what a difference it can make in your life.
Amen.
We'll see some more pictures around town, then we'll come back and finish up with Pastor Jimmy Cameron. Your little hometown.
Yay.
Welcome back to Hope for Hale Center. Jimmy Cameron is our guest, and just heard some great camp stories and some of the things that formed him. I don't know if you knew that that's what you were doing when you were telling that, but you were telling things that formed you into having a pastor's heart, I think.
Oh.
And now you just constantly you look at people and you see what's hurting about them, and you're trying to bring comfort.
Yeah, don't you find it so amazing how many people, even here in Hale Center, that need pastoring. They need somebody to come and speak with them for a few minutes, like even in a hospital, and minister to them and just love them.
They're not all in the hospital.
No, they're not.
You're right. Go to homes and everything,
There's a
don't
bunch
you?
of them in the homes.
Yeah.
A lot of them at the post office and Lowe's. And
The
loads.
pastor's job
other
is
places.
hard.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah. It keeps you very
You're
busy.
surprised who you run into,
Yeah.
and their outlook on life.
Mm-hmm. And there aren't that many that are that uncomfortable to talk about it. But we talk a lot here
They
about.
talk about it, they're just not going to do anything.
Yeah, seems like that. One of the biggest prayers that we have, Jimmy, is praying that ears will be opened
Yes.
and that hearts will be softened. You know, Jesus, even in his parable, told about there's 4 different kinds of soil, but it wasn't like we just have to accept that some soil's just hard and some soil's going to get choked out if we can do it. We were told we have the keys to the gates of heaven, and we can. The gates of hell can't hold us back. We have the keys to the kingdom. If there's hard ground, we need to be about plowing that ground up. If there's weeds, we need to be
Stirring
about
things
trying to
up.
get those weeds out of the way because I
I've
want them
left
to hear
the farming, thank you.
No, you're still planting all the
7
time.
to 7
You're-
on
you're-
that tractor
you're-
is all I
yeah.
wanted.
No, you were planting seeds and you're watering and you're harvesting.
That's right.
Yeah, that's our job.
Well, you said you've got one more story you wanted to share with us before
Couple
we bring
more.
it around.
One thing
Yeah?
is that when I decided that I was going to be full-time church worker,
Yeah.
and I really wanted to be youth director, and the rest of it came along to help me have something to do when I couldn't be youth director, which happened to be 42 years I was a youth director. That was pretty long.
Wow.
Wow.
And anyway, I told the Lord I'd do anything in the church but be a pastor. I couldn't write a sermon. No.
Is that right?
And so I'm in Odessa. And the guy, 3 people who just had a kid come into junior high, was the first week in it, came up to me and said, we don't want the youth to do anything but play. And I said, I'm sorry. The youth can do any of the other stuff they want to do outside the church, but the only thing that they don't have is Bible study and a program. And I'm going to have one of 30
That's
or
what I'm here
45
for.
minutes every Sunday.
Yeah.
So they fired me,
Ah,
put
Is
me
that
on
right?
visitation. That was interesting.
yeah.
Now listen, the 3 that did that called the district superintendent. He had 32 churches, you know. You know what a district superintendent is in the Methodist church. Called him, and I didn't know it. It was behind my back, and said, we think he would make a good pastor.
Is that right?
And we'd put him in ours, but we've already got one.
So they weren't being malicious. They just
No.
Huh.
Next thing I knew, I had a 2-charge appointment.
didn't. The last thing you want to do is pastor.
Now I'm going to give a message twice every Sunday morning.
When funny thing I like to tell
God
people.
was there. Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, the whole point of that is he doesn't make you, but he will wait forever.
He can wait you out.
when it's his time, you'll do it.
Yeah.
When I like to tell people a funny story along that line. When 5 years, I guess it's about 5 years ago now, almost. When I would go out real early in the morning and walk all over town when I was losing weight, and I'd walk by that old nursing home 5 o'clock in the morning, and it'd be dark, and in the front windows I'd see these little old people in their wheelchairs rolling out there looking at the TV. 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'd walk by there, Jimmy, and I would say, Lord, send somebody to love on those people. They need somebody to come there and let them know they
That's
care.
right.
And it was probably about 8 months later that he put me right in there, and I did not want to be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was with the
That's
old
right.
ownership, and it smelled, and it was just,
He's got patience.
he does.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
He
He'll
can
wait.
wait. He's not going to make you do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the way he works.
That's right.
In January, my sister, 14 years younger than me, went to have her yearly checkup, and everything was fine. In fact, the doctor said, for lady 62 years old, you're in wonderful shape. In March,
2 months later.
2 months later, she had a pain in her side, and they have a new grandbaby she got to be with, and she figured it was lifting him and maybe pulled herself or something. The next week she had the pain, so she went to the doctor. They went through their tests, and she has a rare cancer that moves really fast. And since then, she's had to take chemo They found out on Friday, and they started chemo on Monday. That's how bad it was.
Goodness.
And she's having a rough time of it, and she's very positive about it, but it has really been something for them. And I talked with her, and she called me and said, I want you to know before I go into this that it's going to be a long time. It's going to take a long time. And now, the whole clue I want to get to here is that was on Friday. On Saturday, I went to Amarillo with my oldest son and his family because I knew my emotions were pretty bad. And so Friday night, I stayed with them. Saturday morning, I think this was set up. In the chair over to my left was my oldest son and my grandson.
Now, where was this, in Amarillo?
At his house in Amarillo. And there's a couch there. So I end up the couch, my daughter-in-law and my granddaughter, and I start crying. And daughter-in-law puts her arm around me. The granddaughter's passing Kleenex in front of her. And thank goodness I got my cry over, and Sunday I was fine. Now, the one I want to get to that has to do with the way Jesus works, I finished my texts on Monday morning, and I did my devotional studies, and I put my last devotional book down, and I sat back in my chair, and I was going to take a breath. And I hear this music, beautiful music, no words, nothing, just music. So I look down, it's my cell phone. On the screen is full pictures of people in my family, starting with the latest one born and his mother in the hospital, and they just brought the baby to her, and my son standing beside the bed talking to her, clear up until the latest pictures I have of the oldest ones.
Yeah.
That just started on your phone.
Music quit, phone went black, screen went black.
And nobody did that. It just happened. Oh.
You had a miracle?
It just beat all I ever saw.
Wow.
So there this voice comes that says, I want you to support her 100%. I want you to do everything you can. I want you to pray continually for her. But she is my child, and I will take care of her.
Wow.
Wow.
You heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's my child. I will take care of her.
Yeah.
One of the first
good.
things when you were telling me about the illness coming on her, and naturally, I said, does she have faith? Does she have faith in Christ? And he said, yes, she does. And you showed me one of the texts that she sent you. She's a woman of faith. And how do people go through this kind of stuff without the faith?
I don't know.
I don't know how they can do it either.
But anyway, that just, and then he said, I want you to take care of what you're supposed to be taking care of.
As well.
Wow.
I'll take care of her.
Yeah.
Golly.
Now, I come up to a lady, I'm finished here, but I came up to one lady that was having a problem because her husband, she just didn't know what was going to happen to him. Just don't know what's going to happen to him. I said, you're worrying yourself to death, aren't you? She said, yes. And I said, well, let me tell you what happened to me. Now,
That's why these things happen.
Might be a message to you. Why don't you let God take care of him and you get yourself back to the health?
Yeah.
Wow.
Amen.
You know, Sally likes to tell people a lot that sometimes we go through things as believers.
Yes.
If we're people of faith, sometimes the things you go through, the hardest things you go through, are so you can later minister to other people going through them.
That's right.
Because they may not have that faith, or that they may not have that strength in their legs, their spiritual legs, and so we can. And I've found that in so many of the worst things I've gone through, when the Lord puts me in a situation where I can minister to somebody going through that, they wouldn't listen if I hadn't been there.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you don't have the credibility.
Well, if I hadn't had this deal with my sister, I wouldn't have known to say anything.
Right.
That's right.
That's remarkable. That's
awesome.
You're a Methodist. I didn't know y'all had stuff like that happen. Don't make him choke on his water.
Really.
Methodist. I'm not going to say anything.
Yep.
Oh, I go back to Wesley when I think of the Methodist.
Oh, Wesley. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll talk about that.
Oh, godly men back in the
Yeah.
awakening.
4:30 in the morning, he got up to pray. Woo!
Yeah.
I tried that one morning.
I do that. I do it, Brother Jimmy. I usually go back to bed about 4:35.
Yeah.
It's one of my times I get up in the night and have prayer, and sometimes it's about 4:30. But
Oh, man.
who was it that said, I have so much to do today that I shall spend the first
Oswald
4 hours in
Chambers.
prayer? Oswald Chambers.
Yep.
Okay, you want me to close mine out?
Go right ahead.
Jesus, oh Jesus, do you know him today? You can turn him away. Oh, Jesus, oh, Jesus, without him, how lost we would be. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you
Praise
for
the
that.
Lord.
Amen.
Oh, that's
Amen.
awesome, Brother Jimmy. Keep your seat right there. You know, that's an old Marlon Lefebvre song.
I was
He
gonna
wrote
say,
that,
yeah.
And Elvis Presley made him who he is
Yeah.
today, and
Yeah.
it was too much for him. It was kind of like us. He won all that money, and it ruined him.
It
And
did.
then the money went away.
But
and
he
got
came
back right
back.
with God.
He
Yeah,
drifted,
did.
but he came back just like we did.
Without him,
Yeah.
how lost I
How
would
lost
be.
we would be.
Thank you so much,
Amen.
Brother Jimmy Cameron, for being our guest
Yeah.
tonight with testimony, and for
And-
Sister Laura
and Sister
Patterson
Laura
for a
Patterson.
precious
Yes.
testimony to God's goodness, bringing her here so we didn't lose our pharmacy.
That's
and some
right.
of the neat things that they're
Yes.
offering over there now. Go back and listen to the first of this, and we'll talk about it again, some of the services that she's offering as well.
Amen. And our producer, Joe Castillo, thank you for your help.
Producer Joe. You want to real quickly just tell who we're having next week and who may be the substitute, and then we'll go out.
Yes, okay. We will be having Linda Mahagan will be here next week, and she will be giving her testimony, and the Hala team.
The Hala
from-
team.
Hala team
You're right.
from Plainview. They will be our return guests.
And somebody will be here in place of that little face that you're about to see of Brittany White, because she can't
Yeah,
be here.
yes.
But we think she's going to send a proxy.
She's going to try and send a proxy.
There you
If
go.
not, it'll be somebody else or me.
And if there's somebody you'd like to see as a guest, send us a note on that too.
Yes.
Until then, God bless you guys.
bless
Thank you for
you.
joining us, and we'll see you next Wednesday,
Yeah.
if the good Lord willing.